boost Nigeria's vaccine production capacity. The Federal Executive Council, FEC, has approved the process of indigenization of vaccine production in Nigeria. This was disclosed by the Minister of Health, Dr. Osagi Enahanire, at the end of the Council's meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja. Dr. Enahanire stressed that the events of the COVID-19 pandemic and the rush to get vaccines has seen a new boost around the continent to bring vaccine production locally and drop barriers of entry to the sector. World Health Organization WHO Director General Mr. Tedros says the end of the COVID-19 pandemic is in sight. During an online press conference, the WHO chief released his upbeat forecast. According to him, there were 10,935 reported deaths from COVID-19 worldwide between September 5 and 11. The Director General called for continued vigilance. He said the opportunity to bring an end to the pandemic is lost. He said if the opportunity to bring an end to the pandemic is lost, the world will run the risk of more variants, death, disruption, and uncertainty. He urged all countries to invest in vaccinating 100% of high-risk groups in pursuit of 70% overall vaccine coverage. The cost of fuel in Kenya has risen to a new record high after the government partially removed subsidies that cushioned consumers from the global hike in oil prices. The energy regulator said it had removed the subsidy for super petrol while retaining a smaller subsidy for diesel and kerosene. The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority said in a statement that the new prices, super petrol mostly used by private motorists, will now cost about 179 shillings, up from 160 shillings, while diesel, which is used in industry, will cost 165 shillings in the capital, Nairobi. Also, kerosene, which is mainly used by low-income households for cooking and lighting, will cost about 148 shillings. It comes after President William Ruto indicated in his inaugural speech that his administration will do away with fuel and food subsidies, noting that they were costly and ineffective. Officials in the southern Ukrainian city of Keri have said that 112 houses have been flooded after Russian missiles hit a major reservoir dam nearby. The city head, Mr. Vikel, said the residents of as many as 22 streets in 2 districts were urged to evacuate. He said that overnight, 2 blasts were carried out to increase the water flow from the dam to the Inhulet River, and the situation was now under control. This is the word at noon, coming to you from Osun State Broadcasting Corporation, Iliawi Okebale Oshobo, Voice of the West. Now, a mid-news message. You may not have been responsible for your heritage, but you are responsible for your future. Beware of what you do today. Italian police have said 5 people have been arrested for smuggling migrants into Western Europe on private jets. The suspects gave the migrants fake diplomatic papers for the Caribbean nation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Private jets officially heading to the Caribbean took them from Turkey to a stopover at a European airport where the migrant declared their real identity and claimed asylum. Police believe the gang was charged about €10,000 per person. The 5 suspects have been arrested in Rome and Brussels, while the other suspects are still on the run. According to police chief Mr. Costanio Story, 3 Egyptians, men and 1 Tunisian woman were arrested. The suspects are being accused of belonging to a criminal organization involved in abetting illegal migration. The international operation saw Italian officers collaborating with colleagues from Belgium, Germany, Austria, and France, as well as EU and US agencies in the investigation. The investigators documented 5 separate landings in Italy, Germany, France, Austria, and Belgium between October and December 2020. The Belgian police also says 2 private jets worth €426,000 part of the investigation. Pakistani health officials are warning of a looming health crisis in the country after devastating recent floods. Says 3 million people have been affected by the flooding, which has left nearly 1,500 dead since the middle of June. As rescue and evacuation efforts continue in parts of the country, health experts are reporting a surge in malaria and severe gastric infections. Reports has it that many displaced people are living near stagnant water. Information has it that fever is already claiming lives and cases are increasing by the day. The 55-year-old R&B star, Mr. R. Kelly, has been found guilty of child sexual abuse in a second federal trial. The jury convicted the 55-year-old on 6 out of 13 counts after a 4-week case in his hometown of Chicago. He was acquitted of fixing a state trial on child pornography charges in 2008. It will be recalled that last year, the bump and grind singer was convicted of sex trafficking and racketeering in New York, but was later sentenced to 30 years in jail. Meanwhile, the latest verdict is expected to add years to his incarceration. The artist, whose real name is Robert Sylvester Kelly, was found guilty of 3 counts of enticing minors for sex and 3 counts of producing child sexual imagery. The jury did not find him guilty of obstructing justice relating to his 2008 trial, which ended in acquittal. 2 of his former associates, who were also accused of fixing the 2008 trial, were on trial with him, was acquitted of all charges. And here again are the highlights of the world happening. In a bid to boost Nigeria's vaccine production capacity, the Federal Executive Council (FEC) has approved the process of indigenization of vaccine production in Nigeria. The cost of food in Kenya has risen to a new record high after the government partially removed subsidies that cushioned consumers from the global hike in oil prices. Italian police have said people have been arrested for smuggling migrants into Western Europe on private jets. Officials in the southern Ukrainian city of Kyiv have said that 112 houses have been flooded after Russian missiles hit a major reservoir dam nearby. And that was the word at noon, edited by Olushola Egbedof and delivered by Moturayo Ayegbayo. Today's news talk by Adeni Ikendi of our editorial desk writes on the necessary preparations expected of parents and guidance towards their children in wards as pupils of primary and secondary schools resume for the first term academic session in Osun State.
Pupils of primary and secondary schools are preparing for the resumption of 2022-2023 academic session next week Monday. Parents and guardians are to prepare adequately for their children and wards towards the school resumption. Though most parents and guardians have expressed mixed feelings on the school resumption because of the huge school fees to be paid and like books, bags, shoes, sandals, and socks to be provided for the comfort of their wards. To enable children and wards have a smooth resumption and smooth academic session, parents and guardians have a lot of sacrifice to make. News Talk calls for attention of parents, especially mothers, to the fact that back to school of their wards also means resuming their early morning duties of getting them ready for school, packing of lunch and loads of homeworks among others. Posits that a week before school starts, parents should get their wards back into an early bedtime routine and wake them at the time they will need to get up for school. Parents should equally remind their children and ward of the popular cliche that says early to bed is early to rise. Hence, they should allow them to go to bed early. According to a school of thought, pupils of 3 or 5 years are recommended to sleep between 10 to 13 hours daily, while school-aged children of 6 are to sleep for 11 hours daily. News Talk is of the opinion that parents and guardians should not let the anxiety of back to school of pupils get them in a fluster. Hence, they should commence immediately purchase of all school supplies like snacks, stationery, lunch bags, school bag, among others. News Talk maintained that there are learning games online that can help the young one, even adults, wake up the brain and put them in the school mood as quickly as possible. Parents should also review their last term assessment report and results to enable the pupils determine areas to work on with their class teacher. While they should not leave the training of their kids in the hands of the teachers alone, hence the need to complement teachers' effort through vetting of their kids' home assignments. Newstock believes that school pupils and students on the other end should acknowledge their parents' efforts on them for them to be good citizens in the nearest future. A teaching time, they say, saves 9.
That news talk by Adeni Kende highlighted the necessary preparations expected of parents and guidance for their children in wards as pupils of primary and secondary schools in the state are preparing for resumption of the first term academic session in Osun State. It was read by Temi Tokbe Olaiwola. For more about us, you can visit www.osbcng.org. Thanks for listening. Good afternoon.